During a recent Q&A episode of the podcast, I think it was around week 10, I answered a question about educational channels and resources available to the production music composer. And in that video, I warned about subscribing to some of these services which seem to overpromise, but will probably underdeliver. But that really got me thinking, it's one thing to talk about what's not working, but what if we talk about what is? Meaning, who are the YouTubers and the channels out there doing it right? So I thought it would be a really good idea to share with you the YouTube channels and the composers, the producers, the companies which have been most beneficial to me on my journey to production music. Plus, we're going to listen to an epic orchestral hybrid cue written by you, a member of the 52 Cues community, on this week's episode of the 52 Cues podcast. What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Croft, and welcome back to another episode of the 52 Cues podcast, a weekly podcast dedicated to all things production and library music. We talk about industry topics with the occasional rant sprinkled in. That Avid rant from a couple of weeks ago is still lighting up the comments section. I appreciate all of the feedback, and I do read all of those comments. Thank you very much for that. And plus, on the podcast, we feature a cue written by you, a member of the 52 Cues community. This week, we are featuring Lost Oceans, a hybrid orchestral hip-hop cue written by Omar Blyde. If you want to get right on to that cue analysis, then you can check out the timestamps in the description below. But before we get started, just, what is 52 Cues? Well, first and foremost, we're a worldwide interactive network of composers and producers, and we're dedicated to writing better production music through lifelong learning, mutual support, and especially encouragement to others along their journey. And we focus on writing just one cue per week. So why don't you join us? Head over to 52cues.com and click on Join Now. It's free to join. I mean, we do have other little tiers of support, but ultimately it's free to join, and we absolutely love to have you. And before we get started, I have to give a special word of thanks to the family, friends, and patrons of the 52 Cues community, without whom we would not be able to do any of this. We're not sponsored by any mattress companies or anything like that. We are 100% community supported. If you want to know more about how you can help the 52 Cues podcast and the community, then click the links in the description below. We'll be talking about it much more at the end of today's episode. But I thought it would be a really good idea to talk about those YouTube channels which have been most influential on me, specifically on my production music journey, making podcasts, making videos, because we really are in a golden age of education. I mean, YouTube, I'm going to sound like an old fogey here, but YouTube makes you can learn anything on YouTube. Like if I need to learn how to change my motorcycle battery, I go to YouTube. If I need to learn how to light a Weber kettle so I could slow smoke a brisket, get thee to YouTube. If I need to learn how to set up mid-side EQing using stock Logic plugins, go to YouTube. It's all there. And like I mentioned in the intro, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of said, hey, be careful when you go out there. There's a lot of folks over-promising and under-delivering, with some kind of get-rich-quick schemes, specifically in sync and production music. But I wanted to talk about, who's doing it right. And so I have these broken down into four primary categories. First, composers or producers, the YouTube channels which just inspire me, either as a composer or a producer, or I always come away learning something new, or I just love watching them. And then I'm going to talk about a handful of companies that, even though they are selling me something, I come away inspired or educated or motivated. And then there are a handful of YouTube channels that I keep going back to that are specifically geared towards production and library music. And then there is the actual production, music production itself, or just general production. And of course, we're going to have links to all of these channels in the podcast description, either here in YouTube, or if you're listening to this on the go, then you can check out the podcast description. So first, my friend Marlon Gibbons. Marlon is a fellow library and production music composer. I've talked about him before. We did an interview with him. He's got a workshop coming up for the 52 Qs family and friends, and I'm so excited to have him kind of alongside me on the journey. And he's just a genuine person. I've talked about him before, but he has to be the first person I want to give a special shout out to, because he's genuine, he's authentic, his videos are well produced, they're gorgeous, and you can tell that he puts a lot of love into what he does. And like I mentioned in that previous episode with him, if you ever want to see just gorgeous Canadian countryside, then check out Marlon's channel. A lot of what I do here on this channel is a result of seeing what he's done on his channel. So every time I go there, and I've turned on the notification, a new Marlon Gibbons episode hits or video hits, I go right to it, I thumb up, and I watch it in its entirety. Subscribe now. I mean, obviously, I think you subscribe to all these channels, but it's just, I feel like he is a brother alongside, like we're like a band of brothers in our production music journey, right? And so finding a kindred spirit that you can resonate with, especially like across the YouTube verse, I think is really, really a good thing. And so I love his videos. I think he's the real deal. He is the genuine article. So I have to start with Marlon Gibbons. Behind the scenes inspiration, watching some cue breakdown, some production technique. It's just really, really, really good. The second YouTube producer or composer that I want to talk about is Jon Meyer at Jon Meyer Music. And again, have links below. And I've not met Jon, but he subscribed to my channel, and he has, so many followers. I think like tens of thousands of followers, I believe. I actually don't have all of these YouTube channels pulled up here, but I will be putting screenshots and stuff, so you'll be able to see those. But Jon is just, again, like Marlon, is very authentic, and he invites you into the studio. His videos are exceptionally well produced. You can tell that he is not only good in a DAW and good on a keyboard or on a guitar, but he's also really good with his editing. Now, whether he outsources it or not, I'm not sure. I think he does his own editing, but there's just an artistic quality to his videos that I enjoy. And so just like with Marlon, every time a video comes out, I jump in, give it a thumbs up, and I watch it in its entirety, because I always come away inspired. Whether he is, walking you through how to record drums, or how, why he uses like whips on the drums, or recording acoustic guitar, or just kind of more vloggy, more kind of this is the industry. Again, they're always beautifully shot, and I believe he's in Nashville, I think. And so being from or having lived in Memphis, there's a Tennessee connection. I think it's Nashville, but as I say that, I'm thinking maybe Texas, but I believe it's Nashville. And so Jon Meyer, go subscribe. Gorgeous videos. Speaking of gorgeous videos, I have to talk about Christian Henson. Christian Henson, if you're not familiar with him, he is one of the two co-founders of Spitfire Audio. The other co-founder is Paul Thompson. And Christian's video caught me really early, especially on the early side of his YouTube journey, where it was much more of a vlog. And what really, really drew me to Christian's, especially his early work, was he clearly had a vision for how he wanted these put together. So unlike what I'm doing in my vlog from last year, where it was just me in the studio talking head, he would go out and about, in the English countryside or the Scottish countryside, and he would set his camera up and just start kind of talking. He would give thoughts on production music, library music, film music. I think he's primarily a film composer, and he would just talk about the industry, the good, the bad, the ugly, all parts of it. And sitting and standing and talking in front of the most gorgeous landscapes you could ever see. And he usually, has his dogs with him. And so from, as an American sitting in Orlando, Florida, where it's sunny most of the days and there are literally palm trees in your front yard and you can see, spaceships take off from your front yard. True story here in Orlando. To be able to kind of have a window into somebody else's life. Same with Marlon, the Canadian countryside, seeing the Scottish countryside it's just a real glimpse into how everybody else kind of lives their day-to-day life. And so I really enjoyed that. But he also had a long commute, and I think he still does, but part of his vlog was where he would take his camera with him, and man, the amount of editing it must have taken, and maybe this is why he doesn't do so many of them anymore. He would have a long form narrative, but it would all be made up of clips from all over his travels. I don't know how he did it. Christian, if you ever watch this, major kudos. Bravo, sir. They were brilliantly edited and in this kind of Koyanis Katsi kind of way. It was just really, really impressive. And so I enjoyed it. As the channel kind of progressed, it got a little bit more into kind of going into the studio, which is great, which is fantastic. And of course, it's multi-camera. It looks fantastic and it sounds even better. But I think as the snowball started to kind of to roll downhill, and as Spitfire started doing more and more things, I think the focus has kind of shifted away from the daily vlog or the weekly vlog kind of thing, which admittedly, I mean, that's what really drew me to his channel, but it's still there, but it's not the meat of the channel. But they're all gorgeous. They're all superbly produced. And so Christian Henson, I enjoyed getting to know you through your videos. So thank you very much. Another composer's channel that I really, really like, mostly because he is a close personal friend, and that is Jason Graves. He is the composer for New Order 1886, also did Dead Space, did Tomb Raider, among many other games. Went to college with him. We both went to Appalachian State in the early 90s, and he went off into film score land, or film music, which turned into game music, and I went into education and then production music. But we've stayed in touch throughout the years, and his YouTube channel is great. If you really want a candid look into the life of a game composer, then Jason Graves is the way to do it. And he also is super nice. And I think his channel was once called Audio Arc, I believe, or that was one of the shows, because he has birds and chickens and things like that, and bunnies. And so he always has really interesting animals and turtles and all that kind of business. And he's just a super nice guy. And I've really enjoyed his channel lately because he's been doing really deep dives into some of the music from some of the most popular games. So go head over to Jason Graves' YouTube channel. It's completely worth it. It's a little kind of start and stop. And I think as his workload increases or decreases, that's when he has energy and time. I mean, just time to put towards his YouTube channel. So subscribe, but just go there and take a deep dive into all of the videos he has. But Jason, hey bud, I know that you watch, but it's really good to see you back. And I've been enjoying watching your deep dives, even though you're in Cubase. And by the way, if you're a Cubase guy, absolutely check out Jason's videos. But I've just been enjoying watching him peel back the layers of some of, the biggest games like Dead Space, some of those the biggest games, and seeing how that kind of stuff was put together. Another composer, and I just recently did an interview with him, but I have to give him a shout out, which is Matt Bowdler at The Unfinished. His YouTube channel is full of demos of the sound sets that he uses, and I'm giving him a shout out here just because I love the guy and I love his sound sets. They have absolutely changed my Omnisphere game, and you can definitely check out the interview I did with Matt. But check that out. A hip hop channel that anytime I needed to know, like, man, how would you do this in Logic, or how is this beat produced? And the YouTuber is named iamamusicmogul. Never met the guy. Super nice, down to earth. And he does so much, specifically in Logic, but he does so much in Logic in the box. So, hey, you want to learn how to program the loops for this super famous beat, this hip hop track that you know, then he is doing it. He does these recreations. He does reviews of gear, reviews of software. And I am a music mogul. I have watched so many of your tutorials when I'm trying to learn a style, or when I'm trying to learn how a specific hip hop sound is made. And especially as someone who teaches Logic, full time at Full Sail, I'm in Logic all day, every day. And so I never go away from watching one of your videos without learning something new about Logic. And he does it all day. And he's not like in this giant studio surrounded, like you see some of these, like you see like Junkie XL videos, and it's like surrounded by all this gear. You watch a Thomas Powell, and you're like, wow, I'll never ever have that. But you see I Am a Music Mogul, and it's just like a little, I think it's like an M32, like a complete M32 keyboard on a laptop. He's making like fire beats in Logic using mostly stock Logic sounds. I learned how to do, or why and when to do reverse 808s. I never thought about taking an 808 one shot, reversing it, and using that in my hip hop beats. I Am a Music Mogul. I have you to thank for that. And the last couple of composers I want to talk about, first is Guy Michelmore, who I think, over at ThinkSpace, I think if I had like, here's who I want to be as a YouTuber when I grow up, it would be Guy. I love his energy. I love his humor. I always have a good time watching it. This production quality, it's like you could hold my channel and Guy's channel, and I'm a little embarrassed about how much I have copped from what he does. The only thing I don't have is like the multi-camera bits. That's next. But like using a Stream Deck when I record live, that's all Guy. That's where I saw that happen, and I've just really enjoy watching him. And he deserves all of the subs that he gets. And I think ThinkSpace, I've never heard anybody speak ill of ThinkSpace. Of course, now we might get something in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. But what Guy is doing over there, the genuineness, the obvious passion for what he brings to the table, and for him doing his videos, like I said, if there was somebody who is, my YouTube spirit animal, it would be Guy, because I love what he does, and I love what he's about, and I love his energy, and yeah, so Guy, I tip my invisible hat to you, sir. And then the last composer I want to talk about is a relatively newcomer to the YouTubeverse, and this is Anne-Katherin Dern, who is kind of peeling back the layers and being about as candid as I have ever seen a YouTuber, a film composer. Again, this is film versus production music, but as a film composer, being just as truthful, honest about what it's like to be a media composer, everything from the hours to the expectations to creativity to royalties to the production process, everything. Like how you write a cue, how you record a cue. Let's talk about microphones. Let's talk about writing to a brief. It's so broad. And I especially love that it is a female perspective, which is so sorely needed in this industry. So Anne-Katherin, I've really, really enjoyed your channel, and I've seen your subscriber numbers just skyrocket, and you're absolutely deserving of all of those. I wish you the best. Please keep up the stellar work. And if you're watching, hi, Anne. I would love to have you on the channel. Would love to do an interview with you. I would love to do an interview with any of these folks, and I have with some of them. But Anne-Katherin's YouTube channel is worth the sub if you really want a very candid, honest view of what it really takes to be a film music composer or a media composer. So those are the producers, the composers, which have been a huge influence on me. Next, I want to talk about some of the companies. Now, companies, their YouTube channels are ultimately, let's be real, they're ultimately meant to promote their business or wanting to get you to subscribe to their service or buy their software or whatever. But there are a handful of companies that I keep going back to that are doing it right because their channels aren't just there to sell you something. If I can go away inspired, educated, or motivated, then you have done your job. And those are kind of the three criteria to all of these channels. And the first is, probably goes without saying, is Project Sam. I've been an unapologetic fan, super fan boy of Project Sam since the beginning. They were the first kind of like grown-up library that I got when I got off of stock sounds, and I need to upgrade my sounds. And Project Sam's, specifically Symphobia 1, was the first. But what I really like about their channel, it's not just here are the walkthroughs and here are the sounds and all of that, which are great. They're great. But the demos, right? Here's how you write a cue, and they open up the session, and it's not just like playing the audio. You kind of like can go piece by piece on how to build these different types of cues using obviously Project Sam sounds, but it's so well done. It blurs the line between like production tutorial and a tutorial to use Project Sam. So Project Sam, keep on keeping on. I love what's going on with your version 2. You're updating, Symphobia 1 and Symphobia 2. And I know down the pipe you have updates in the pipe for your other libraries. Keep up the good work. You're absolutely doing it right. And I appreciate you. Next up, Spitfire Audio. Similar to Project Sam, Spitfire does a really good job of going really, really deep into their libraries and in showing how their libraries can get you to where you need to go or where you want to go as a media composer. And it's not quite as tutorial-y as I think Project Sam is. And if I'm being honest, their kind of mystery box marketing gets a little tiresome for me, just because I think I'm ready for it, but like what's coming next? It's like not everything necessarily can be the most explosive thing to ever kind of happen. But especially around your BBCSO launch, I really, really loved that. The live stream and again, absolutely doing it right. And I love that you bring in different composers, different perspectives. And especially when many of those perspectives are from, traditionally underrepresented composers. And so I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I love how some of those composers who you bring in then kind of come up with a library and then you sell that library later. I think it's absolutely doing it right. It feels, and whether it is or not, but it feels like not this kind of monolithic, I'm in charge, Paul and Christian, we're in charge and we say everything. And it feels super collaborative. And again, whether that actually is or not, the perception is from a consumer side of things is that there's a super collaborative environment happening over at Spitfire. Like I loved watching all of your videos when you were building the new offices, and congratulations on even needing new offices. So I enjoy that, and it's absolutely coming through. It goes without saying that the production quality is through the roof. It's so well done, and I really, really appreciate you. Likewise, I think that Heavyocity is doing it right. I really love their plugins, and they seem to be kind of like one of us. Like, hey, these are just a handful of folks who enjoy making good libraries, and Their YouTube channel is full of inspiration, and I go there often to not only see, what's new in the new sound sets, but to learn a little bit more. So Heavyocity, I really appreciate what you folks are doing. I got a couple of more companies. Reason Studios. Now, I don't use the Reason DAW, but ever since they came out with the plug-in version of Reason, I've gotten back into it, but I've never stopped watching their videos because they're so well produced. They're usually really fun. They're well edited, and just like some like Project Sam, it's like, let's learn how to do this thing using the tool, not let's use the tool to do a thing. If that makes sense. And so going to the Reason YouTube channel, it's like, let's make, a hip hop beat, or let's do this one thing. And by the way, we're going to use this tool, but I come away feeling like I learned more about what the style was or the technique rather than learning the software. And that really, really excites me. They've recently gotten into doing more live streams and stuff, which I think is great. So keep up the good work, Reason. And then finally, this is a retailer. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I strongly suggest it. And that is the Sweetwater YouTube channel. Now, yes, Sweetwater is looking to sell you microphones and guitars and drum sets and speakers. That's their job. But if you want to, in my opinion, one company who does customer service right, especially in the music gear space, it's absolutely Sweetwater. When my drums were stolen out of my car, wow, what year was it? 2019, 2018? Longer than that? No. It was longer than that. That had to be like 2015 or 2016. Sorry, because we've lived in this house since 2016. And so it was before that. Anyway, that's not relevant. When my drums are stolen out of my car, there was a GoFundMe to help replace my equipment, and I will be forever grateful for that. But I contacted Sweetwater because I didn't want to buy, something like that on Amazon. So I reached out to Sweetwater, and I got a rep who, to this day, some 6 years later, still works at Sweetwater, is still my rep. Hey, Ryan. He still emails me periodically. Hey, bud, just checking in. Do you need anything? Well, the fact that a customer service rep at a retailer is still there some 6 years later, that really tells you a lot about the ethos in the company. It really, really does. Retention at a retailer. And so their customer service is fantastic. And I think anybody who spent any time in music retail will admit that Sweetwater is right. That's the A list. And their YouTube channel is no different. Yes, they're trying to sell you mics, but you will learn about those mics. You will learn much more about just that mic. You'll learn about mic technique. You'll learn about how to mic up a drum set, or how to set speakers, or polarities, or how to tune drum sets. It's so good. And so I highly recommend that you subscribe to Sweetwater. And if you watch their videos, then I would also recommend, or at least ask you to think and consider buying those, buying whatever you're researching through Sweetwater. Now, none of these, these aren't promotional. You're not going to find any promo links in the description. None of it. These are just YouTube channels that I think are a good idea. So head over to Sweetwater. They don't know I'm doing this. They're not paid me to do any of this. All right, so just a handful of other YouTube channels that I want to talk on. And the first is the three channels that have been kind of influential on me, or that I think you should absolutely check out in production music. And they are Sync My Music, which is Jesse Josephson over at Sync My Music, Make Music Income, which is Eric Copeland at Make Music Income, and Taxi. Now, there's great debate about taxi, and we've talked about it before here on the channel, and I don't want to necessarily get into that, but every week, Michael sits down and does a live stream called Taxi TV, and he unpacks, a different topic. It could be about royalties. It could be about having guests on. It could be about things that, that libraries are looking for. Now, obviously, Taxi is looking to sell you taxi subscriptions because that's what they do. That's their business. But there is so much to be learned from watching those Taxi TV live streams, which I think are of huge benefit to the production music composer. So absolutely check it out. Now, the production quality has improved, and Michael has some kind of things that he does. Like he has a little applause machine, which is, I think, a tongue-in-cheek joke. It's kind of running gag from here on out, or a running gag that he's been doing for quite a while. But it's really, really good. So I encourage you to check out the Taxi TV. Now back to Sync My Music and Jesse over there. Jesse has been on YouTube for a long time. He is one of, if not the first, kind of sync music, licensed music, production music YouTube channels that I can remember seeing. And he has an academy. He also uses Mighty Networks, which we're using now for 52Qs. And seeing that he had his community over on Mighty Networks gave me the confidence to kind of go all in over there. But I believe that what he's doing is really super beneficial, and the proof speaks. I mean, the testimonials are I think proof of that. Lots of folks have benefited from what Jesse is doing. So I encourage you to check that out. And he puts videos out on the regular, and boots on the ground, real folks doing it. But it's not super slick. It's not super polished, holding up like Jon Meyer's and Christian Henson's videos against Jesse's videos. You will definitely see a difference in quality. But seeing Jesse with him in his studio talking, just like Guy, kind of gave me the confidence that I as a YouTuber don't need to have all this super slick production to have an impact on folks looking to be better as production music composers. Now, thankfully, he has upgraded his webcam, and so welcome to 1080p, Jesse. We're glad to have you with us. And then finally, Eric over at Make Music Income, which is a relatively nascent YouTube channel. He has a stellar Discord. I highly encourage you to check out the Make Music Income Discord. Tons of channels, lots of chatter. It's one of the busier Discord servers that I'm a member of, and I love jumping in there and chatting with folks. He has a pretty active podcast that releases every week or so, and him and Steve Bedall of Production Music Academy have some good things going on. And so lastly, I want to talk about some YouTube channels in the production space. And there are 4 specifically, 2 which are specifically towards the production aspect, and then another 2 which have really helped me specifically with microphones. But the first one is In the Mix. In the Mix is a YouTube channel which, like so many others, deserves every single one of their subscribers. What he has going, and his name is escaping me right now, who runs that, but it's called In the Mix. It is some of the most cut and dry, direct A to B. You have this problem, let me solve it for you. It's well produced. It's got graphs and diagrams, and it's very well edited. It's not super like artistic and slick the way that like John's and Guy's videos are, or Christian's videos. But if you want the full on like lynda.com kind of Mac Pro video experience for free on YouTube, I think In the Mix is one of the top, if not the top. I've learned so much in such a short, concise amount of time that I highly recommend you check out In the Mix, along with House of Kush, another great YouTube channel. The host of that channel, he's so mellow, and it's a little like Kush after hours. Like it's like, okay, all right, let's light one up and just chill and learn a little bit. But his videos on compression alone are worth a subscription. But just like Anne-Katherin gives a very honest, candid kind of no bells and whistles. This is just the truth coming right at you. And I really, really appreciated it. His video on learning to hear compression was super, super game-changing for me. And he goes back and forth with using plugins, showing plugins. It's not quite as tutorially as in the mix, but I've learned so much. And his vibe is so chill that yeah, I can just watch it, put it on, kind of turn the lights down, and just let it wash over me. So House of Kush and Kush After Hours, highly recommended. And then finally, a couple of production YouTube channels, which aren't specifically music production, but which I have learned so much. And the first is Booth Junkie. It's Mike Delgadio. I do podcast production, obviously, and I've done voiceover work. I've done audiobook production, but his reviews of microphones and his technique on like sound dampening, on reverberation control, learning to treat a room are absolutely stellar. Now, especially if you are in the voiceover world, but even if you're not into, voiceover work, narration, audiobook, even if you're not into that, I highly recommend you check out Booth Junkie because he just tells it like it is. He frequently will do A/B comparisons between microphones. So he'll take like the Stellar X2 and the U87, and he will record them side by side. And throughout the video, he will be going back and forth between the two microphones, and you can really hear the difference. Likewise, another microphone-centric channel that I have watched hours and hours and hours of is Podcastage. Podcastage, the host is named Andrew. I think he goes by Bandrew. Also does microphone reviews, and if I can't think of a microphone that he hasn't reviewed, from a $3,000 Neumann to a $99 SM58. Reviews all the way from top to bottom. And here's what I love about Podcastage's reviews. They are wildly consistent. If you look at a review, you know exactly what you're going to get. And every single mic review follows the same pattern. I can't imagine the amount of editing that goes into it, but they are very consistent. He will talk about plosives. He will talk about off-axis. He will talk about the proximity effect. He will talk about sound that can be heard, off the microphone. He will do a review from like 2 inches away to 6 inches to 8 inches. He will do a review and he will use it on a guitar cabinet. He will use it with and without windscreens, plosive rejection, all of that. And every single mic review follows that same formula. The build quality, the connections. And it's such a huge, huge treasure trove of information, rather. It's a fantastic resource. So if you're at all interested in practically any microphone you've ever heard of, check out Podcastage. It is the deepest well of microphone reviews, and knowing and seeing that each review is consistent from mic to mic across years of production is absolutely worth the subscription. So check it out. Now, I did open this question up to the 52Qs community, and we've got lots of submissions. I'll put a link to that topic that you can check out, but I want to give a shout out to Daniel James, to Anthony Clint Jr., to Produce Like a Boss, Andrew Huang, and Stephen Bedall. Those are just a handful of the channels that the 52Qs community has found helpful. But what about you? Who are the YouTubers out there that you think are doing it right? Who deserves a shout out? Who is inspiring you? Who is motivating you? Who is educating you? Where do you get the most out of the YouTubers that you subscribe to? I desperately want to hear from you because I need more subscriptions in my feed. And please let me know in the comments below. I make every effort to respond to those, but I absolutely read every single one of them. So want to hear from you in the comments below. So with that, let's change gears, and we're going to check out Lost Oceans. This is by Omar Blyde, a member of the 52 Qs community. It is a hybrid orchestral hip-hop cue. We are going to listen to it, and then we are going to talk about it on the other side. That was Lost Oceans. That had a definite like Carmina Burana, Carl Orff kind of vibe to it. I'm not sure about the title Lost Oceans. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the title really does it for me. I don't have any other suggestions for you, but I really like it, and I love the use of the vocal. Is that a word builder kind of thing? And let's see what you said about it. You received a brief. The deadline was May 2nd. Sat down to work on it 10 a.m. You finished at 8 p.m. starting from scratch. Got to subtract 2 hours. So yeah, you had to turn it around really quickly. So I really enjoyed it. And if that's word builder, that sounds really good. If you're not familiar with word builder, I think it's East West in their vocal libraries. You can type in different syllables and phrases, and it will say them to you, and they will sing them, if you will. It's kind of moderately successful. I did a cue called "Come at Me, Bro," and I tried to get my big kind of dwarven choir in my mind. They're all like these big to sing like "Come at me, bro." It sounded really stupid, and so I just had them singing nonsense Latin. I mean, it was just, yeah, quoti ma fa. Right, so that's I'm not going to attempt to sing any more of that. But if that's what you got going on here, it's super effective. I really dig it. I feel like the intro is a little long, and it would really depend on the type of usage you were going for. If you were looking for like a commercial placement, that would be one thing. If this were a sports cue, I think the intro, you have to dig in a little bit more. And so I wonder, coming at the top, coming with the vocal, and then go right into the beat. Yeah, and I wonder if that would be a little bit more effective, just kind of jumping in. But I think this all absolutely works. I mean, that works. That works too. In a commercial, you could get away with that a little bit more. Not sure about pulling energy back here because we just got started. And if I had any kind of overarching comment, it would be that it feels a little too start and stoppy. Like, this is great. We're doing good. But then we pulled the energy back. So it feels like every phrase, we're kind of bringing new ideas, or we're changing up the energy of the cue every phrase, as opposed to letting the phrase kind of simmer and then building up on it phrase by phrase up to a kind of a breaking point and then pulling some energy back. But as considering how long it took us to get to like the big brass blats, which to me feel like the main attraction. Like, everything's been building up to, like, that's like the hook, which I think really works. But let that cook. Keep those bomb. Like, let those big brass blats continue on, and you layer on top of it, and then we can pull some energy back again. It's a little early to switch gears like this. And again, I have to kind of separate like a commercial application versus like sports broadcast. I do my experience with this type of cue, this genre, is in sports broadcasting, and those tend to be a little bit more kind of toothpaste waveform, where it's not quite as spiky in energy. Commercial applications, you can get away with it a little bit more, but even still, this feels like a little early to switch gears. We're 48 seconds into the cue, and we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're on our 6th. Is that right? 1, 2, I'm counting up sections here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we're now in our 6th kind of phrase characteristic. At 48 seconds, we're now on our 6th type of vibe. So that's a lot. That's a lot. I love boom boom. Nice take on an 808. I like how it's not really super sustained, right? There's not a really long release tail on it. I dig that. Digging this. Love all the drills. And you've done a fantastic job riding the line between the drills and the stutters, which are enough to really communicate the genre and the style, but not so much that they interfere with dialogue. So I think you've done a really good job. And as far as the mix, chef's kiss. This is sounding really, really nice. I think you might be able to bring a little bit of lift in those brass splats. I like bringing out the splattiness of my brass splats, and I just want to keep saying brass splats, I guess. I like to bring out a little bit more of the sparkle on those, so they're a little bit, kind of blatty. Okay, that's enough of brass splats. All right, so we've spent, I think, 2 phrases here. All right. 2, 3, 4. We need another gear of energy here. All right, so we got the little counter melody. And this is where I would probably add octaves, like an octave above these brass stabs. We'll say stabs. But this is all working. Oh, and you want to hit a downbeat there. Backing it up a little bit. Bum, zoom. I like the no kick here. Yes. I would resolve that. If you're gonna hold that and suspend that chord, da da da. Yeah, absolutely. And then then I would add the Carmina Burana Latin right there. I would hold off on it, add it, use that at a phrase point. It feels like it's coming in like halfway through the phrase here at the end. 2, 3. Yeah, so you're bringing it in bar 3 of the phrase. So generally 4-bar chunks. Love the octave up. Oh, you're like really, really, really going for it. Can we connect those a little bit more at the end, leading up into the button? It feels like, and you can actually kind of see it if we look at the waveform here, it's a little bit of a gap right in here. Now, all that having been said, your final note feels a little wimpy. Da-da-da-da, bow. Like you really, really need to hit it, I think, stronger. It's arguable whether or not the da-da-da-da would work. You know, if you were one of my students, I would say always end on tonic, just one chord, downbeat, and be done with it. I don't know if an editor would have an issue with that. Maybe, but it also really works with the cue. If this was a commercial, right? Again, commercial versus more production music, kind of, especially in sports broadcasting. Probably wouldn't work. In fact, I'm told repeatedly by my publisher that my buttons need to hold out. Like they want like a full measure, boom, because if it goes to, you know, a title card or something like that, they want more coverage. And so you might want to consider, I mean, I know you've already submitted this, but you might want to consider sticking that landing. I would maybe extend that. If you're going to do the punches, jump, bump, 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 bum, and then end it there. I think that would be a little bit more in character with the true epicness of what you've got going here. But at the end of the day, I really, really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you sending this along. This was sent to our Week 18 search because every single week over at 52cues.com, we post a thread, and folks just like you submit their cues for feedback, and they leave feedback. So why don't you join us? Head over to 52cues.com. It is free to join, and we would absolutely love to have you. We would really, really appreciate the support. Speaking of support, this channel, this podcast, the community would not be possible without the support of the family, friends, and patrons of the 52 Cues community. Yes, to join 52 Cues, to be a part of the community is absolutely free, but there is so much more that you can get out of 52 Cues by being a friends, family, or patron subscriber. Things like access to weekly music production live streams, live interactive feedback on your cues, office hours. You can join in our mastermind group. We have monthly workshops, so much going on beyond just being a community member, and that is, again, for our family, friends, and patrons. So if you like the channel, if you like the videos, if you like the podcast, don't thank me, thank our patrons. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you did have a stellar Week 18, and I can't wait to hear what you've cooked up for Week 19. But that's going to do it for me. Until next time, peace. The 52 Cues podcast is copyright 2022 Dave Croft, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the 52 Cues community and submitting your cue for consideration on the podcast, head over to 52cues.com.